welcome everyone to our March Coffee Chat. I am Laura Knudsen-Murray. I'm the GIS Coordinator and Community Outreach Assistant for IrisBG. With us today is Shanna Jones. She is our Social Media and Community Outreach Assistant. Oyvind Rusten, who's the founder and CEO of IrisBG, is with us today also. We also wanted to make everyone aware that we have the Knowledge Library. That's where the recording will be uploaded. And all of our previous coffee chats are stored there under articles and presentations. You're able to follow coffee chats and you will be notified via email anytime something new is posted. The idea of these sessions is that we at IrisBG would like to offer a space for you to talk to your peers and have a chat about the issues that may arise with your work with your collection. We don't have a fixed format for these, so please get in touch with me if there's a challenge that you would like to present to the community, or if there's a topic you would like us to present on. It can be anything big or small. Hopefully today you'll make a few new connections, and together we may become a little bit wiser. This is a map representing the institutions that registered. Just to learn a little bit more about who's today, we'll launch a poll. What is your level of expertise using IrisBG? Are you a novice, intermediate user, advanced, or just trying out the trial? It looks like 60% intermediate and 20% advanced and 20% novice. Great. Our presenters today are Patricia Malcolm, who is the Membership and Services Manager at BGCI. She's been a botanist for more than 15 years and has experience managing and delivering programs in the conservation sector, embedding and monitoring programs in nature reserves in the UK Wildlife Trusts, digitizing projects of herbarium collections, producing field guides for seed bank targeting, and using herbarium collections for the ICU and Red List Kew Gardens. Patricia is currently managing membership and the grants and accreditation programs at BGCI to support gardens in achieving their collective mission. Thank you, Tricia, for coming and presenting for us. And we also have John Green, who is the Garden Director of the Knowledge Garden at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences in Uppsala, Sweden. He's a landscape architect by trade and is interested in multifunctional urban green spaces for the human health and biodiversity. So thank you, John, also for coming. Great team to hear from today. And just before we get too much further, a little advertisement for our next coffee chat. We will be talking about the Garden Explorer. So that will be in April. Without further ado, I will give the reins to Patricia.
Thank you very much. Nice to see many of you, some of you I know in person, some of you mainly by email. So it's nice to see some faces behind the email. So thank you for inviting me to this coffee chat. So today I'm going to talk to you about BGCI's accreditation scheme. It should be a short introduction to it, and hopefully then John will give the perspective from the garden side of how it's worked for him and his garden. And we'll talk a bit of why your garden should become accredited if it's not already. So first of all, a little bit about BGCI. BGCI's vision is a world where plant diversity is valued and secure. And to accomplish this vision, BGCI aims to mobilize botanic garden institutions and their staff so that together we can accomplish this. So we are a global organization and a membership organization. So currently we have around 750 member institutions. Being global, we have a few offices, main office here in the UK, in London. We have an office in the US, in China, Africa, and Singapore. And we have different regional teams also working in other areas. So to accomplish our mission, we offer a suite of benefits, some of them which are widely available for the community. We offer advice, support, we have our global congresses, and also we have some of our benefits that are exclusive to our membership, like the Global Botanic Garden Fund. We have some online training courses, which we keep on adding to. You can post news on our website about your gardens. We have suite of databases, which some new ones that are so close to getting garden search, the new garden search and plant search out, which is super exciting for us. And also we have the accreditation scheme, and that's the one I'm gonna talk to you about today. So the initial idea was it came out from, how do you distinguish between a park and a botanic garden? What's a botanic garden, and how can we distinguish it? So, a park is a nice place to see plants and space to enjoy, but, might not do research or has accessions or label collections. So it came from an ask from the International Advisory Council to set standards for botanic gardens across the world, because there are certain accreditation schemes that are country specific, but there wasn't one that would span the whole world. So that's when the accreditation scheme was born, around 2018, 2019. And it aims to empower gardens and increase their impact by receiving recognition of the unique skills and collections. The scheme has 3 categories: botanic garden accreditation, conservation practitioner, and advanced conservation practitioner. The scheme was launched in 2019, and it's a scheme based on evidence. So it's not just a ticking mechanism where you say, I've got this, I've got the other, but you have to present us with evidence, which we then review. And the idea is that it is also inclusive, so particularly the botanic garden accreditation, so like it can be achieved not only by the big gardens, more established gardens, but by maybe also smaller, newer gardens. And it has to be able to account for differences in countries around the world as well. As well as being evidence-based, is a mentorship scheme. So if, let's say when you send us your evidence, maybe there's 1 or 2 targets that are not quite achieved, then if you're a BGCI member, we can help you get there by providing you resources, Zoom goals, help, and see how can the standards of a garden can be improved to reach them. So what I'm going to mainly talk today is about the botanic garden accreditation. From the 3, I'm just going to talk about that one. And this accreditation has 10 different areas where we ask for evidence. And once you present the evidence and review it, and if you get accredited, then the accreditation lasts for 5 years, and you will receive certificate logos highlighted in our website, BG Journal, and when the new garden search comes out, also it will come out in your profile in garden search. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of these areas. And the first one that underpins the whole of a garden is your leadership and strategic documentation. So planning documents and strategies are essential management tools for running any organization. And they provide a framework for management and delivery of your institutional targets. And not only they inform the people within the garden and the staff of what does the garden do, it also informs the outside people about what your garden does. So they're crucial. So as part of the accreditation, we ask you to provide your strategic document for the garden and also your collections policy. And make sure that in the collections policy, there's information about how you acquire material, how you accession it, how do you de-accession it, why do you hold certain collections, what's your aim as a garden. There's a really good example in YouTube. There's a link in here I can give you on Cambridge Botanic Garden, University Botanic Garden living collection strategy is very useful. So as well as having strategic documentation in place, to be accredited as a botanic garden, need to be open to the public, whether this is by appointment or open to public 9 till 5, X number of days a year. As long as you present me information of how you're open to a general public, then that's it. As well as having the strategic documentation to do with your collections. These collections need to be documented. Because as you all know, collections are very expensive to build and to maintain, and the value of documented collections is the primary use for research, conservation, and education. And so without collections being documented, really, we don't have a botanic garden. So I think those of you that are here that are like your data, this is where we ask for giving us a screenshot of how do you keep your collections documented, whether it's an IrisBG or an Excel, or we have to accommodate for all sorts of different sizes and mainly income of different gardens. So and we ask also for those collections to be shared via the collections data to be shared via Plan Search as well. Another element of the accreditation is the public engagement. So botanic gardens connect society with nature, and globally we engage with more than 750 million visitors annually. And so informing and educating visitors about plants and conservation should be a key element of a botanic garden. It's not just about having those plants there nicely, set out in your garden if people can't come and see them and learn from them. So what we ask as part of evidence, is like, what sort of education programs do you have? Are your specimens clearly labeled for your visitors? You might have some interpretation panels, and so pictures, links to maybe you have schools coming into your garden, so links to anything you have online, that sort of thing. You can provide us evidence, as well as documenting the collections. These need to be maintained. So, as botanic gardens, we conserve and manage a far greater range of plant diversity than any other professional sector. And knowing how to grow a range of plants is key skill set amongst botanic garden horticulturalists. So we asked you to give us, I think it's 3 horticultural activities. I'm sure you do more, but in terms of for the accreditation, if you can provide us evidence for at least 3. So you might have your horticultural plan and management plan of what you do, some photos of, your pruning or your ways that you do things in your garden, quarantine facilities, and also some photos of your accessions labels. Sometimes the labels that are for the public don't have the accession number, but I want to see that accession number to make sure that it links to that data that it's in your databases. You'd be surprised some gardens do not have that. So it is crucial that if we call ourselves botanic gardens, that we have those accessions numbers linking the data to the plant. As well as having your collections and maintaining them, the collections also are there for use in research. So either by staff of your garden, so you might be writing papers or publishing, or you might not have that capacity in-house, but your collections are being used by university students, or you have other partnerships where that they are using their collections for scientific research. So as long as you show me some examples of that happening, then this target would be met. And a lot of this evidence, we ask for evidence, in the last few years, not for, research that happened 10 years ago. So it has to be kind of, the same as your education activities, fairly recent, in the last 5 years, let's say. to go with your strategic documentation. We usually, in most cases, the strategic documents are like, they span for 5 years. And that's why we chose that 5-year period. So in gardens, we can harness the expertise for plant conservation in many different ways. And as part of the accreditation, we asked us to provide us 3 conservation activities. There's a list in the manual that can give you examples, but maybe is ex situ, examples of particular collections that you hold ex situ, or in situ conservation, capacity building, and conservation horticulture, and so more. For the conservation practitioner, we ask for even more in-depth and more conservation activities to be presented as part of the accreditation. In this target, with botanic gardens, we have a responsibility to practice what we preach. So if caring for the environment is one of the key messages to the general public, then we should be demonstrating sustainable and ethical practices within our organizations. So we ask you for evidence on sustainability activities. It could be you have renewable energy, composting in particular ways, water saving. If you have any policies on equality, diversity, and inclusivity, or responsible sourcing, maybe you have shops in your garden, or where you get your compost. I also suggest that you look at the climate toolkit.org. There's is developed by the Phipps Conservatory in the US, where you can share your ideas and experiences on sustainability practices with other garden museums and zoos. So it's worth a visit. So there's other 2 targets in there that I haven't put a particular slide for, but there's also, be part of a network. So we want gardens to not work in isolation. So maybe there's a national network that you're part, or you're part of BGCI or others. And then also to send me information about at least one member of staff in your garden needs to, the role needs to have an expertise, maybe horticultural or research. So a job description, basically, of one expert in your garden. So to help you through the accreditation, we have a suite of resources. We have the manuals for each of the accreditation schemes. And we also have training courses on our online training platform. And we have lots of examples on our website from gardens that have already been accredited. So strategic documentation, sustainability documentation, collections policy, and so on. We try to also provide them in different languages as much as we can. And as part of the accreditation process, I also, you send me the information, and then I go, oh, I don't quite understand that. So then we might have a Zoom call and provide, I can provide you with some help if needed. I wanted to mention that we have a reciprocal accreditation with ARPNet. So ARPNet is an accreditation for Arboreta. And what we have is that if you get accredited via BGCI, and then you also have this, I think you have to have more than 500 trees in your garden. You can provide a little bit more information to ARPNet, like educational activities on trees specifically, and you can get accredited via ARPNet at level 3 or 4, and vice versa. If you are accredited via ARPNet at level 3 or 4, you can provide us with a little bit more information, and you can get accreditation in BGCI. I just thought it might be worth a look for some of you. So we have around 99 accreditations in total to date, growing slowly, and but there's a lot more to go. So this is how many institutions worldwide there are in garden search. So I do have I need a bigger team to do this. And the accreditation really is not, I would say it's a system that you want to take your time, you want to look at it, and it's not, I'm just filling it, I say done. There's a process that needs to go through it. And John, I'm sure we'll talk more on why it's important to get accredited, and I think it's better described from somebody that just got accreditation not that long ago. But here are some examples of the importance. So improving your own processes, it's good to have a standard to measure yourself against. It provides like an ongoing review of why you're doing things. Am I doing them well? Also demonstrate that the garden has a global best practices in place, and that you have the documentation in place. That is important. It also allows you to reach bigger audiences, and also opportunities, and you can open other opportunities to be part of a in-country botanic gardens network, or your council might realize, oh, actually, so if your garden is council run, we've just accredited a small garden in Melbourne. That is a garden of 2 people, and it was really, really important for them to get that recognition, for their council to say, actually, they are doing great work. Here's an example of the botanic garden in the Dodger Stadium in LA, who, after being accreditation, they had a huge impact in showing to the kids in the area through the library and radio and YouTube videos and YouTube talks. They could reach a much wider audience. So yeah, so hopefully John will talk a little bit more about what it means to his garden, but also we can, you can ask me some questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. John, if you are ready, I'll hand the reins over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, I can tell you a bit more about why we got accredited, but also why we got IRIS, actually. So I become head gardener of our collections 2014. So I work at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences in Uppsala, Sweden. And here we keep plant collections, especially for education in the field of the built environment. We educate a lot of landscape architects. At the moment, we have around 300 landscape architect students at our campus at any given time. And we have another 150 students of landscape engineering. Besides that, our university teaches all agronomists of this country, foresters, ecologists, botanists. So we have a few different user groups. But when I took over, I realized we have a plant collection, and I've been in education for a bit, but I could see we had a few different challenges and a quite big collection, but I had a bit of I was a bit alone. You don't find great plant collections like all over the place in Sweden. There's a few if you contact them and so on. So I just figured, okay, so which institutions are doing a good job keeping plant collections? And I quite quickly realized, oh, that's botanic gardens. That's what they do. And what is a good botanic garden? What do you have to be good at? I mean, like in the systematic overview, we had our own collection system, which I was part of building in GIS and Excel files. And it was a bit tricky to teach it to new people. We had very few written standards and so on. So it's been a quite long journey documenting our collections, documenting our anything from policies to guidelines to work instructions, and having running a collection that anyone can take over, because my nightmare would be that I quit my job and suddenly the whole place would just crumble because it's all in one person's head or 2 persons' heads. It's not enough. The accreditation process has been good because we have got a good overview of the whole activities as far as the Botanic Gardens operations are concerned. And I will share my screen. You will get to look inside like my working life now. So it will be exciting for me as well to show you. Let's see, can you see my screen now? I just want to have someone nod. Good. So the accreditation process in my case started in Excel, where I just listed all the targets and I tried to find evidence from our side. And I did find evidence for all of the things eventually. And it was in this process I really realized like a thing like IRIS would be really good to have, because our own GIS system was a bit hard to use for a few different functions. And I'm going now to just walk you through a bit our evidence basically, and the part IRIS played in producing that evidence. First of all, in the strategic plan, I would say that several targets in the annual work plan is possible to set and follow up with the help of IRIS. So we have statistics about taxa, nomenclature, inventories, and labels. It's very easy to find all of these in IRIS. I won't show every step of how I did it in IRIS or in how we use it, because that's a too long presentation. But if you have questions for the end, I can try to show you how I did a few different things after the presentation is done. So we can have a look, I think, here. So I basically created then a folder in my Windows system where I just kept all the evidence needed. So in the strategic plan, you can find different plans from our university and our gardens operations. Secondly, it's the collection strategy. And here I can say already in the guidelines, we realized, okay, so we need to control quite a few things: accessioning, deaccessioning, invasive species, red listed species, rare taxa. And so far, IRIS has been very satisfactory in covering these areas. And we have both guidelines and work instructions that instruct anyone to use IRIS for many of these tasks. So it has played a role even on this quite abstract level. We also use IRIS to keep track of future interesting taxa with the help of tasks. And it's very good to have like a good taxa database even for taxa that we don't have yet. We also keep track of things like the RHS Award of Garden Merit plants that are suitable for our climate, and a few others. As we work with the built environment, there's new plants coming all the time, and it's quite an interesting world to work in. Because we know that there's a lot of plants we don't use today that we will be able to use in the future. And I would say also that we have to use in the future. We have a climate change going on. In our garden, it's fairly evident, even on like the day-to-day basis. And then for other strategies, we have guidelines for instance, plant exchanges. And again, in the accessions tool in IRIS, we keep track of where from plants came. And even it's possible to even save accession numbers from if it's from another collection, and keep track of the plant like all the way. The same if we exchange materials. We don't do that much, but we've set up a system where we would make a report and keep score with the help of a report in the form of an Excel file, so we know that this date we sent this plant materials to this other institution or garden. So that's good. As far as opening hours are concerned, we don't use IRIS. That's one of a few areas where a Google screenshot, I think I took it from Google Maps, we have the opening times there. It's 24/7 basically. It's slightly, unfortunately, we don't even have a walled garden. We have a lot of roe deers, and so pests basically are sometimes a bit hard to control, but it's a very open and accessible garden. Of course, when it comes to the target number 5 with permanent and living collections documented in a plant records database, IRIS is our core. And we could easily produce Excel files with all the accessions with the help of the reports tool. I can open it once up just to see that IRIS is up and running. So here we have the reports tool. And there are 2 good reports that we have used for this. And one is the accessions number 2, I think, which is basically accessions data. And then the second one is the taxon list, which is here, which is the function we used for the next target, which is plant search. And this is the only one I will show you step by step what we did, because it was a little complicated. So first of all, I just went here, I hit export basically, and just got an Excel file with the whole collections. That was the first step. It looked, yeah, like this. And it's quite an extensive file. There's a lot of columns and so on. So it wasn't ready for a plant search from the start. But then I basically took the headlines from the plant search instructions, which you can find at the plant search website. And I just deleted all the columns which we didn't need and sorted it quite nicely. And then it was just a matter of exporting it to a CSV file. There's a good instruction at Plant Search on how you do that. And then you have a ready-made file that you can copy-paste or upload to the Plant Search database. It took a few rounds around the block before we got everything in place with Plant Search. I thought it would be a little easier, but yeah, don't despair if you haven't done it and get stuck, because we got good support on that one. Okay, target number 7, shares collections data. Garden Explorer is basically what we use here, and yeah, I can show you it, our Garden Explorer if you like. You can see the domain name. But it's a great way of sharing the collections, except for Plant Search, of course. Then labels, I would say the number 9. Of course, again, Iris is the core of our labeling work, all the way until we get to the printing stage, where we export data from Iris with the help of reports, and then we import those reports in our printing software and we print labels. I have one here. I don't know if you can see it. We use very small labels as our standard label with a QR code, accession number, family, and so on. And the QR code leads to the Garden Explorer, which is very useful for our students, because then they can go and find out more information about the accession online with the help of their mobile phone. And the mobile things, I sent a screenshot of my mobile, I think, also, because that's another way we label things, because nowadays you can see where you stand in the garden and you can see the accessions or the items around you, and it's quite useful. Sometimes these physical labels disappear or you just can't find them because everything is so lush, and then it's an extra layer of labeling. For the next target, science and research, we do keep a lot of data in Iris, and we have had a few projects, and Iris is actually the database, the first-hand database we use for keeping research data also. There's a library function, for instance, but also all the documentations for the accessions and the items are there. And I think, as far as I can see, it's our safest place to put data today. We have a normal Windows server where we store things also, but it has become very important. To round this off, I would say target 14 was also quite relevant, because we have a network, and I've met a lot of useful, smart persons via the Iris network that has helped me also with the accreditation. So yeah, networking has been really useful for us, and I've learned a lot from different gardens. The Gothenburg Botanical Garden and the Amsterdam Botanical Garden I can mention especially, because they were both very helpful in both getting Iris and in the accreditation process. And I can see in the crowd Stina and Martin, so I can thank you for that. Yeah, that was about it.
Thank you so much, John, for walking us through that.